ngHouston. I don't normally start with a yee-haw, but tonight I'm starting with a yee-haw because I'm very excited about the show. This was kind of a last-minute thing. We actually were planning to take the week off because it's a holiday over there in Texas, and but we had a last-minute thing. So actually, it was funny because Philip. So Philip, you want to say hi because I'm just jumping you into this introduction.
Hi, I'm Philip.
Philip and I are working together on a project, and we were having actually a heated debate about our whole NX, how we were organizing things, and so then we saw this brand new NX Workspace course just came out, basically with the answers to all of our questions. So it was like Isaac just knew that we were having this debate, and he just made this course just for us. So it was really exciting, and so I reached out to him and said, "Hey, come on the show and preview, just give us like a sneak peek of what this course is all about." And he actually had time to jump in today. So this just all came together like in the last hour or so, and I'm very excited. So we're going to dive right in. But first, I just want to give Philip a chance to, because Philip, this is kind of your fault because you and I were having this debate. So I want you to have a chance to say hello. And I think, is this your first time on ngHouston?
No, I was on. I was actually on the last time Narwhal came on with Jason Jean. So it's like whenever Narwhal comes around, like I'm hungry for more knowledge about Narwhal.
I don't blame you. Any friend of Narwhal is a friend of mine. Like I'm repping the brand. We got the little Narwhal toy. We love some Narwhal on ngHouston.
Oh, look at that! I got mine too. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel left out now.
Yeah,
it's a Narwhal kind of day today. So yeah, we love us some Narwhal.
I'll expect my Narwhal in the mail. Sure. Like just go ahead and ship that on. I'll be good. I'll wait.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make that happen. Okay, and I want to introduce Bjorn. You guys should know Bjorn by now. But Bjorn, and also because I told Bjorn last week we didn't have a show, and then like 30 minutes ago I'm like, Bjorn, come on, we're rocking and rolling, and he just jumped right in. So thank you, Bjorn.
Hi again, ngHouston. I'm really interested in this episode because even though it's very impromptu, it's a very nice segue from last week's introduction to NX, doing Node.js projects and front end in an NX workspace. So this is a nice add-on, I think. So happy to be here and very curious to what you have to offer us, Isaac. I'm inclined to ask you some difficult questions if you want. So sure, sure, cool. It's gonna be fun.
This is great. Okay, so Isaac. Then tell us a little bit. I don't know if you have slides put together or whatever, because I know that we just talked about this like an hour ago. But tell us a little. I mean, I know who you are, but will you introduce yourself for us? Tell us about
you. Yeah. So I'm a senior Angular engineer at Narwhal, and I started at Narwhal in January this year, and so I about 2 months ago, we published a free NX Workspace video course that I recorded, and then just this week we launched an advanced NX Workspace course, and that's what we'll be talking about today. Both of those courses, and I really like. I love NX as a tool. I was using NX for about 2 years before I joined Narwhal, and I just really value the way that it gives you a way to structure your code and to put it helps you to put multiple applications together, but also to split up a single application into separate libraries and run your commands like your test and lint and build commands only on the code that actually was changed by a particular PR, and to speed up your CI process and your development process as well. So it's just it's really cool program and or piece of software, and I'm just excited to be sharing these courses on how to use it, so more people can get the benefits of using it that I've had.
We're excited.
Sounds fantastic. Yeah, it sounds fantastic.
Okay. I really want you to share your screen and jump in and show us. But before you do, because last time you were on our show, I think you were brand new to Narwhal. So now that you've been in the Narwhal family for a while, you have any insight? Like, I just want to know, like, from behind the scenes, Isaac, is Victor as mean to all of you as he is to Jeff Cross?
No, that's specially reserved for Jeff. I think
just for Jeff. Okay.
I think Jeff kind of invites that. That's his persona. He said, okay, go ahead and be mean to me. I can take it.
He does have broad shoulders. Yeah. Okay. I just want to keep up on all the, see how it works like inside the family.
Yeah, it's great. We have recently moved to once a week. We have a stand up where we share updates on our projects, and we spend about 10 to 15 minutes of the 45-minute meeting just being goofy with each other, and so that's fun.
Healthy banter. That sounds good. Yeah.
Next time you have a meeting like that, do me a favor and give Wes Grimes a hard time and tell him that we really miss him because he hasn't been on ngHouston in a long time. And,
okay.
And we just give him a little peer pressure. Tell him we.
Yeah. Well, he just became a GDE, so he should.
I know that was very well deserved. We love Wes Grimes.
Yeah, fantastic dude.
Oh yeah.
All
right.
right.
You want to rock and roll? I see your screen here.
Let's do it. So I'm going to move this off the side here.
This is going to be good.
Oh, no, I'm sharing the wrong screen. I'll stop sharing the screen. Share the other screen. That's
ngHoustonception there.
Yep. There we go. That's the one we want. Okay. So here's the nx.dev website. And I'll just give a brief intro to NX. There's three kind of big things that NX gives you. Gives you out-of-the-box configuration of modern tools like Cypress and Jest and Prettier, and just recently Storybook. I did the PR to incorporate Storybook in. So I'm excited about that one too. I'll be giving a talk on that in NGBE next week, which that'll be fun. Then the second thing, it lets you put multiple applications together in a monorepo, build full stack applications. I think you had to talk about that last week, about putting a Node application next to an Angular or React application, which is great. You can share code between them. And then the third thing is developing. My scroll wheel always goes crazy. Develop like Google, Facebook, and Microsoft. So it's extra tools around managing your monorepo, because when you put all that code together and you have all your code in one repository, you run into some problems that you don't face when there's a single application in a single repository. Things like you can't just run all the tests in your whole repository all at the same time, because that would take too long. So you have to have some tools around that to make it manageable, and NX provides some of those tools. So this first course, this is the free NX course, NX Workspaces course. It's just on YouTube, and I don't know if you have show notes or whatever, but I can send you this link. So this is just, if you go to, if you just search for NX Workspaces course in YouTube, you should be able to find it. And this is a playlist of about 35 minutes of content that you can go through at your own pace. And the focus of this course is all about how you would use NX. So anybody who's in an NX, working in an NX repository, NX Workspace, would benefit from this course. So if you had a team of 50 people, all 50 people would get value from going through this course. And then the advanced NX Workspaces course just came out this week. So here's the URL here is at nxplaybook.com. And this one is more advanced topics. And so on a 50-person team, maybe 5 people would get real value out of this. So the focus of this is on how do you set up conventions for the rest of your team to follow. How do you decide your tagging system for how you tag different libraries? There are schematics that come, like the Angular CLI schematics, but you can make your own schematics. And so this goes through, it has a series, there's 5 courses here on making your own schematics. And there are builders that the serve builder, or the build, like Angular provides serve and build builders and Lint. But you can actually write your own if you want to. If you have some custom task that you like creating documentation for a particular library or for a particular application, and you want to do that for only the affected pieces of code, you can write your own builder to leverage the whole ecosystem. And then the last section here is on code migration, which is in a monorepo, you have libraries that are shared, can potentially shared across multiple apps. And so if one application wants to use a new version of the library, but a different application can't update right away, this walks you through how to kind of a step-by-step process on how to do that in a large repository with multiple teams working, and how do you set it up so you're always the momentum is always moving toward the second version of the API. You never let people go back from the new version to the old version. So yes, that's kind of an overview of the two different courses. And the repository for both courses is here at the Board Game Horde, narwhal/Board Game Horde on GitHub. And let me just do a quick demo of what this app looks like.
I love the Board Game Horde. You
Yeah.
Narwhal guys are so fun.
So in this, actually, let me instead of serving, let me show you the dependency graph here. That's probably better. Uh-oh. Permission denied. Okay.
It's not a last demo until something goes wrong, right? So.
All right. This is what happens when you find out an hour beforehand that you're actually going to do something.
You're such a good sport, Isaac. We appreciate you.
Let's see. This staff, is that the way it goes? So this repository I've got, I have a React app, an Angular app, and I've got an Express API here. And I've got some, this is remnants of experiments that I was doing. So I can delete those. But anyway, well, I'll leave it there. But now I'll run the dependency graph here. There we go. So this is not a tiny repository, but you can in a real production application, things can get much bigger than this. But so we've got I think Review is a React app and Store is an Angular app, and they've got some. They're both depending on the API. Here the API is the Node app, and there's even a web component library here that they're both depending on. So we've got a complex enough application to kind of see some of the benefits of what NX gives you. Okay, so that is the and then I guess let me show the.
Can I just say I really love the dependency graph? It brings some joy.
I think it's that was the first thing that kind of sold me on NX, was like, oh, I can see how my application, how my different modules are depending on each other and how they relate. It's pretty awesome. Okay.
Array of strings. Maybe just a quick git reset.
Yeah, maybe. Switch the styles to be an array of strings. Ah, there we go. That's the problem. I needed to run yarn install. So I could show you what this looks like, or I could kind of dive into some of the content that's involved in either the free course or the advanced course. Basically, the free course here, it walks you through like the basics of, okay, how do you start and make an NX repository, NX workspace? What does the file structure look like? How is it organized into apps and libraries? What do you put inside of tools? Tools can be basically anything that's not any code that's not an app or a library. So scripts or schematics or builders or ESLint rules. What else? Yeah. And then it'll talk you through what the workspace.json file is for. how it defines the different projects, and the nx.json file, this takes the workspace.json definitions and kind of extends it further so that you can have some custom lint rules on which things are allowed to depend on which other things. Okay, I think I want to open this up and kind of go whatever direction people have interest, because I've got, so in terms of content, the free course is about 35 minutes long. The advanced course is about 47 minutes long. But there's no wasted minutes in any of that time. So if you started from not knowing anything about NX and you just watch these straight through, you would get lost pretty quick. So they're set up so that you watch a section and then play around with the code a little bit, and then watch another section and play around. And ideally, you wait to watch a section. Maybe you watch it once all the way through, and then you wait to rewatch a section when you actually have need of it again.
I really love the folder structure conventions.
Uh-huh.
I think that's something. I don't know if you went into a little bit of detail about that just now.
Sure.
That's relationally, because I think when you have the way that all the folders are organized is pretty important. I like to keep everything clean and tidy, and it kind of gets out of hand. And also something that Justin Schwarzenberger and I were talking about the other day is the relationship between apps and libs, and what is the difference? Is that something that we could talk about for a minute?
Yeah, let's do it. So apps are basically things that have that are deployable. So you have a node app can be deployed onto servers and can be accessed from that point. An Angular or React app, those are things that you can deploy out. End-to-end projects are also called apps because they, in the case, because they're things that you, once they're running, you can. So you run Cypress in watch mode, and then you point a web server at it. You point your web browser at it. The libraries.
Would
go
be,
ahead. Yep.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it would be. I think it would be clean though to have the end-to-end like in a separate app/etv or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's
you could
just
do
me,
that.
my personal preference, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you put all these end-to-end things inside of their own folder, then you wouldn't see the review app next to the review end-to-end folder. So that's the only issue, is that you wouldn't have those two things together. Yeah,
have end-to-end part of the app, but yeah, that's a different way of running tests, of course. Again, so
right, yeah. So then libraries are basically anything that an app needs to use, and libraries can also be published. So in that sense, libraries can have a build target. They can have a build task on them, but that's not something that you can put on a server and access. It's something that just gets sent up to NPM or whatever other distribution mechanism you have. But that's basically it. So, and then libraries. So apps are pretty straightforward. You've got standard applications, and you've got end-to-end applications, and that's basically it. Now, where it gets tricky and where people have arguments about how things should be laid out on the file system is with libraries, because libraries you tend to have lots more of them. So like here we've got five applications. So these rectangles are applications, and all the ovals are libraries. So we've got just in this one we've got about 3 times as many libraries as applications. But in some of the code bases I've seen, you have, I don't know, 50 times as many libraries as applications. Sometimes it's just one application, and then everything else is libraries on libraries on libraries inside of it. which
What
which is
about when
nice.
you have libraries that depend on libraries? How do you avoid the circular dependencies? Each library should be standalone, right? But like, because the thing is, as it grows and scales, it's easy to have a library that needs another library, or
Right.
it
Right.
gets
So
messy.
I mean,
What do we
right.
do,
So
Isaac?
right. So in this case, so review feature list depends on shared UI title. It depends on data access games. It depends on shared util format. So this one library depends on 3 others. And it would be easy to add something in shared util formatters that depends on something up here or something over here that makes a circular dependency and then confuse all the tooling around it.
It's like you're watching us. How did you know? I'm just kidding.
Okay. So NX has some lint rules that go with it that let's see. Well, let's look at TS lint here. So NX has some lint rules that go with it that let you make sure that you don't have circular dependencies, and that you have, even more than that, you might have some specific rules about how libraries can depend on each other. Where is it? Okay, so here we go.
Yeah, Philip was showing me this, I think, just yesterday, and this is very cool.
Yeah.
And this is specifically in order. This is built into NX specifically to avoid the circular dependencies. Is that right?
Yeah, that and other things. So there's about 2 or 3 core lessons on this specific topic here, and basically, in this application, we have 4 broad types of libraries. We got a feature library, which is like a route level library. We have UI libraries, which are like presentational components. Data access libraries, which are services essentially for accessing the network and other things. Let's see. I guess those are the only 3. Then I guess the API interfaces is just like a TypeScript types library. And so you can have, well, I guess there's also apps. So apps, libraries can never depend on an application. So that just is impossible. But in general, you want like a UI presentational library should never depend directly on a data access library. And you want to have a rule that's in place that says, no, you can't do that. We just want the code not to compile if you try to do that. And in the same way, feature libraries should be able to depend on data access or UI, and that's fine. But if you have here we go, a util library here that's just supposed to be like low-level functions, that should not be able to depend on a UI or feature or data access. That should be all the way down at the bottom. And so what you can do is you can
hold
set
on,
up.
you're going really fast, Isaac. This is exciting. Okay, so if you're an architect and you're over a big, large enterprise mono repo, and you have developers and you don't want to let them do anything, then you said there are several lessons that cover exactly what Philip and I were talking about with the setting up the dependencies. Then
Yes.
that's in the free course, or can you just tell us again where we would find those lessons?
Yeah, so the free course has a little bit of it at the end. Let's see.
As far as setting up these restrictions.
Yes. Let's see. So let's look at this. So there's a transcript at the bottom of each of these. Main ideas.
You mean you don't have them all memorized?
No, I don't. But so this last lesson in the free course touches a little bit on setting up library tags to create lint rules, which is exactly what I was getting into here.
Because we want to keep the libs flat as much as possible, and the lint rules will help keep everything neat and orderly. And you have these rules that you want all the devs in your repo to follow, but this actually forces them to follow the rules.
Exactly. Yeah. So the more you can, if you can set up a rule that can be enforced by a computer, then there are all sorts of benefits to that. There's the benefit of you don't have to be the one like policing people, so you don't have to be the bad person, and it also means that the computer is actually going to catch it 100% of the time, and you're gonna, if you were trying to do that yourself, you'd miss things. And then
you
also,
don't have to blame it on the architect. You can just it's NX won't let you. It's NX
right, it won't let you do it. Well, then also it can happen a lot faster. So the person who's working on it, they try to import something and they'll immediately get a
very short
Lint
feedback
warning.
loop. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can actually do that. So let's see. This is a feature library. Let me go to the util library here, and I will do import from, and hopefully this works.
You got this, Isaac. We believe in you.
Let's see. I'll import something from the feature list library.
It's already read.
And it's already read.
Yeah.
And let me hover over it, and it says there's a circular dependency. And let me make it something that's not a circular dependency. Let's do well here. Let me do a different library.
Oh yeah, they probably all use this one. Yeah.
Yep. So let me do let's see. I'll look at the dependency graph. Let's look at, let's say, store UI formatters, and I'll have it import from review feature list.
Yeah.
So we'll go to store UI formatters. So you already saw that it's blocking circular dependencies, which is great. And I'll import here. And now this should not be a circular dependency, but it's got this rule that says, hey, a project tagged with type UI can only depend on libs tagged with type util. So this feature list library is not tagged with type util. It's a type feature, and so it won't let you do it. It can't compile.
I love this.
That's so powerful, right there.
All over it.
Right, it's incredibly powerful, and you can do it on more than just. So these tags, I didn't. They're not hard coded anywhere. They're defined in the nx.json, and you can make them. You can tag them with whatever you want to tag them. So say you've got so review here is of type app, but we get on here. I've got tags based on type. You can make a tag based on scope. Meaning, so say I want to have, I want to make sure that the review, anything that's for the review application can't depend on things that are in the store application for some reason. Then
you really want to split that, you can do it.
Then you can do it. And then if you want to share it, you can change it to scope shared. So things that are scope shared, anybody can use. But if the scope is review, then only the things inside of scope review can use it.
Yep.
And that's defined. Yeah, go ahead.
When NX first came out, and they were promoting it and trying to get people to try it and use it out and give some feedback, and I was like, well, let's wait until, I don't know if I want to use it in a production, because let's wait and see if it's any good first, if it's a stable software before we start using it. And Victor explained the cool thing about NX is it's basically just really highly opinionated configuration. It's not you're building on top of more software. It's just, CLI configuration schematics and stuff like that.
Right.
It's all dev tools,
It's just really highly opinionated.
It's just great dev tools. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's giving you all this control. If you know where to look and you know about all these features that you have all this control, and then it's so easy. I just love the way these JSON files are. It's so easy to change them.
Right.
If you know where to go, which is why we love having you on the show, Isaac.
Right, and that's the hard thing. One of the things when I first joined Narwhal, it's hard, sometimes hard to find how to do things with NX, and there's like API level documentation, but that's not always enough to figure out, okay, what should I actually do? And so one of my passions is to get the knowledge from people who work at Narwhal and actually make it accessible to other people.
Which is why the right place.
Yeah.
Anytime you should come here. Anytime you want.
Okay.
Hey, Isaac, can I ask you a more separate question? Is a little bit higher over. I see a very heavy link with TS Lint still, and that's on Angular as well, by the way. That's still a different discussion, I guess. But there's talk that TS-Lint is going to be phased out and replaced with more ESLint specific parts.
Right.
So ESLint is going to take over TS-Lint's functions. Is
Yep.
NX already working towards that to make that migration seamless, or what are we looking at right now?
Yes. So we're working towards that. Right now, you can have ESLint and TS-Lint defined, and you can have them both running in the in your monorepo. So I have a TS-Lint.json file and an ESLint RC.
Yeah, and a pretty RC as well, I see, which bite each other sometimes. So that's interesting to see.
Yeah, you just have to watch out for that. Yep.
Yeah.
Depending on how you set up your rules. That's part of the way NX is set up. You could configure it to make your life miserable if you want to. So
I love it when the compiler shouts at me.
Right. So basically, I have these dependencies constraints. So this is where you define what rules you actually have based on those tags. So I have the UI libraries can only depend on libraries of type util. And so I have that same dependency constraint in my ESLint RC and in my TS-Lint.json. So if I change right now, if I change this, I have to change it in both places, just to make sure that it works in. So like React applications, they usually prefer React developers usually prefer ESLint as opposed to TS-Lint, and the fact that we're moving over that way anyway, it makes sense to start start using ESLint even in Angular projects. But yeah, so it works in both. And actually, the James Henry, who just recently moved on from Narwhal, we miss him. But he is the guy. He's writing TypeScript. What is it? TypeScript TS-Lint or
Narwhal? We love James Henry. Where did he go?
He went to go work with his brother.
Still Angular?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. So I think this is the one. TypeScript ESLint. There you go. There's James. So he's still with us in spirit. You can go to npm and look at his face. But yeah. So there's this project is the basically the way ESLint parses TypeScript files. And James is the one who did a lot of work on that project, and so we're in the progress of. I'm not sure who. I think it's the Angular community in general is working on moving the what are they called? What's that?
CLI schematics.
Not the CLI schematics. The list of Lint rules that for Angular, the Codalizer.
Yeah, Codalizer.
Rules, moving those over to ESLint. Because really, you got to wait for those to be moved over and before you could actually do the move yourself. I'm not up to date on what the progress of that is, but yeah. So this is one feature we talked through how to use those tagging rules. You can see in so here in the advanced course. I talk more in depth about type tags and adding tags and constraints. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just going through in the free version, I talk about these type tags and how you set up rules based on those. And in the advanced version, I talk through, well, here are some other types of tags you might want to consider putting on and how you would define them for scope, for platform, whether something runs on Node or whether it runs on the web. Or you could have a tag for stability. Say you want to add a library, but you want to make sure nobody actually uses it. You want to flag it as experimental. You can set up this tagging system where the things that are have been approved for production only depend on other things that have been approved for production. So it gives you the ability to commit code to the repository to the workspace without so it's there for people to see and play with, but not to ship into production.
Exactly.
So
can you show the overview once more?
Yeah. Of the
So there was a question from a viewer. If the type text section is only 2 minutes long, yes, it is. So I'm sure they'll blast through a lot of content in high speed.
Yeah. So all of these are pretty fast. So I went through and I edited out, long pauses,
all the herps and stuff like that.
Yeah. And any NPM installs that take 40 seconds, I made them like they took 2 seconds. So you see, okay, you scroll past that, and so anything that's actually useful that you want to, like where I'm actually intentionally typing something, you'll see me type that out. But things that you're just waiting, we can cut that out of the video, because I want to, like, there's no value in just making it longer for the sake of increasing that number. Yeah.
So I just want to touch on this because I see there's trunk-based development. We talked about it earlier a little bit. Don't have to get into that right now. There was a question from another viewer who was talking about what would the process be to migrate an Angular app into NX? And I think that's funny because we talked about that too a little bit earlier as well.
Yeah. So migrating Angular into NX, let's see.
Or basically like how you would migrate from a non-NX workspace into a new NX workspace or whatever, something like that. Is that something that's also touched in any of the courses anywhere?
Yeah, I don't think I don't directly talk about that. Which that actually would be a useful thing for another lesson.
I've seen a couple of clients over the last year or two that actually had apps before they started using NX. And then they brought apps into NX, and they had like several, and it got messy because some of the configuration was already configured before. Like if you create an app, if you create something.
Oh, Bon just cut out. There you go.
Yeah, it works really well. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's fine.
But yeah.
So just to basically summarize, viewer in chat, you're not alone. You're not alone.
Yes, you're not alone. And I could do a high level overview of what you would do. Basically, if you're outside of an NX repo, basically what you're doing is you've got a review app, and or you've got one single app, and that's it. Usually, I know Angular CLI lets you create libraries as well, so you might have a few of those. But most cases cases of repositories that are not using NX, usually they just have one giant app, and so that's what you would do. You would put your files, 2 folders side by side. You do a create NX workspace to make a brand new blank NX repository, and then you copy over all of your source code into your app from your existing app into the NX app. And I think there's a command line way to automate some of this. I don't remember it off the top of my head though. But then you'll have this giant application, and then slowly over time you'll break pieces of that out into libraries, and that's what we do with our clients with Narwhal. We if we're migrating people over or upgrading people from AngularJS to Angular, they start with a giant application, and then we work through, which are pieces that we can break out, and how do they depend on each other, and so that's the process you go through. Yeah.
Yeah, and to jump in with just like a little bit of some real world experience there too. So we started out with separate repos. We did start with sort of like a common components library that we wanted to export, and that was in a single repo, and then there was an application in a separate repo. When we migrated everything into NX, exactly what Isaac is talking about, using the NX commands first to actually set up the structure of your code and make sure that all of your configuration files get updated first, that is going to go a long way towards success. And then from there, you might have to hold your nose, but you're going to be like copying and pasting code into the right places. But once you get it into the right places, it's a lot easier to go look at the configuration file. Okay, what should this file be named now, or what should this directory be named if I have to make any of those changes? It's a lot easier to start with, get the NX command correct, get the Angular CLI set up so you can actually build all of this, and then start bringing your code in, as opposed to bringing your code in and then trying to like hand code any sort of configuration related around that. That's at least the process that's been successful for us.
Yeah. Yeah. So making a new workspace, you do npx create NX workspace, and that'll create a whole new repository for you. That'll set everything up, and then you can copy things over from there. And you probably went through this last week, setting up. You have some presets here. You could set up Angular with Nest or React.
Can I just say that I already love that Angular Nest combination right there? Like that's a big part of. Oh, I'm very unsharp right now. That's a big part in what's making me consider moving to NX and actually starting to actively use it in all the projects.
Yeah, great.
Really cool.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll say that we've been on an NX monorepo for a while, but just managing our Angular code, all of our backend is in .NET. And there's just been a couple of times where I wanted to throw together a really quick proof of concept, and I needed just a little bit of a faux backend. It's really easy to go ahead and just add a Nest API to your existing monorepo and get spun up that way. So when I wanted to do an experiment with GraphQL, and that's a lot easier to get spun up inside of Nest, inside of an NX monorepo than it is to go convince my backend guys to start
build one,
to build one of their own. It's really, really handy. So that's one of the other advantages that we found with NX is it's so quick and easy to do prototyping and really quick code. And especially with those constraints, if you want to have an experiment that's fairly long-lived, tag it with an experimental status, and then at least other developers know, hey, that looks really interesting, but I shouldn't be touching it in my production code right now.
Or else the compiler will scream at you again.
Yeah, hopefully the compiler because we don't have these type constraints right now. It's mostly me coming in and yelling at people, and nobody enjoys that. So
right, and that's the whole thing. I mean that's the big thing that I love about NX is that it takes the burden off of people. All the things that computers can do better than we can, and it lets the computer do those things.
Yeah.
So setting up configuration files. Yep.
Sorry, my internet's been kind of wonky today, but I wanted to mention because you guys were talking about Nest, and we just had an episode last week about setting up a Nest with NX. It was really a great little demo with Matt Carniato. So if you haven't seen that, check it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somewhere over here. Yeah. Yeah, it's somewhere over here. Yeah.
There's definitely a link to it.
Sounds like you need to automate yourself away with some TS Lint rules, Philip.
I need to automate myself out of a job. Absolutely.
Yep. Basically, that's what we're all doing here, right?
I would rather be spending my time on important decisions and functionality than
there you have it.
Code reviews where I'm fussing at people. You imported this from the wrong place. You got to go import it from here. If I had a machine doing it for me. So that's the other thing to all the architects out there is if you're saying right now, we'll get to these tags eventually. We'll get to these constraints eventually. Don't do that because you're going to be me in 2 years and you're going to be miserable.
You're going to be screaming at yourself. I could have automated myself away from this.
Well, so the other thing that often ends up in a README file are series of steps that developers have to take more than once. So anytime you need to add a new top level route, usually there's this whole series of things that you need to remember to set up in a certain way. You make sure you add it to the route. The app module routing place, you need to make sure that, and then every organization has some sort of bespoke custom things that you have to remember to do. Maybe some sort of adding some translation files somewhere, or adding registering in some other location that all the pages need to be set up in this certain place. And you have this arcane list of instructions in your README file that usually is a year old, and nobody reads it anyway. And so you end up with people submitting PRs that you have to maintain and say, wait, you did that the wrong way. You have to do it this way. And so that's where schematics are really helpful. So instead of writing out a list of instructions of you do these 6 things and then you're done with you're ready to actually start coding and make your page the way you want it to be. You can automate that with a schematic. You can write your own schematic that sets up, puts this bit of configuration here, puts that bit of configuration over there, and then it's if people actually use the schematic. So then your README is just it's a single line. Like if you want to do this, use this schematic, and then you're done. And so then the schematic takes care of setting things up for people instead of people manually having to review those PRs and things.
Mm-hmm. We've got a great question in the comments for the show, and I'll say it's a great question because it's the exact same question that I have, and it's actually what Bonnie and I have been fighting about lately. So Patrice, who's another member of our team.
Everybody say hi to Patrice because he promised. Oh, hey, that is hello, Patrice.
Hi, Patrice.
Patrice is tired of hearing me and Bonnie argue about this. He's going to a neutral third party to get the right answer, right?
Okay.
So he's saying, like, what are the distinctions between an app-specific feature and domain-specific shared features? Should app-specific features be limited to composing shared features, either domain-specific or agnostic? And I think related to that is if you go into the TS Lint file where it shows the tag constraints.
Okay.
The exact example that we're talking about here, and this has been in a couple of NX examples on scope review. So scope review should only depend on scope review or other libraries with the tag of scope review or scope shared. And then for scope store, it should depend on libraries that have scope store and scope shared. Is it a recommendation from Narwhal that sharing between scopes like that is always done through a shared scope, or can particular scopes actually depend on libraries that are inside of other scopes?
So this was just an example that I set up. I don't think there's a specific Narwhal blessed way of doing it.
Nice.
But yeah, and it's going to be different for every organization. The main thing that this JSON file lets you do is it lets you hard code what you've decided already as an organization. So I'm sorry, I don't think I'm going to solve your argument for you. But what this does do is once you've finished having your argument and somebody's won, then you can write it down here, so you don't have to keep having the argument.
Yeah.
So it's not every single time this comes up. Oh, that this person disagrees with me, and now every PR they submit is doing it their way instead of my way, or the way that we agreed on. It's now we decide once, we have our argument once, and then it's just going to be that way. That's the same value to like prettier rules. You can have an argument once about which way people like things formatted, and then it's just been decided, and that's the way the repo is set up.
I always turn off for semicolons.
Yeah. So yeah, you can do that as long as you're working with other people that are fine with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's great. And the thing that I can pull out of that is, I always think of myself as like lead mistake maker, like as an architect, like that's my primary role, is to go make mistakes so that other people don't make them later. And so, the things that NX gives you when you're looking at examples and you're looking at documentation, these are not sort of Narwhal blessed. Like these are not the absolute positively way that you should be doing. Like this example with, the scopes can only rely on their own scopes. It's not necessarily a recommendation, but NX is going to give you the tools for you to have that argument once. And maybe you're fine with different scopes sharing code with each other. You just need to establish that rule, have that argument once, make the decision, and then enforce it through these tag constraints.
Right. I mean, usually, this is a pattern that we've seen in several different clients, is that, you have different teams that kind of wish they were working in isolation. And if they want to, preserve some of that feeling, this is how you could do it. You could have them, tag their own stuff with, hey, this is ours, don't touch it. And then when they decide that they want to let other people use it, then they can change it to shared. And so it lets you be in a monorepo and see everybody's code, but know that stuff over there you can't touch.
Mhm.
And it actually not that you shouldn't, it's you can't, because it'll stop you.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll also throw out, if other people are looking for recommendations, Manfred Stayer's book on Angular architecture utilizes NX, utilizes these tags and these constraints, but he does offer some concrete recommendations on how exactly to share code between different scopes, and I really, really like it. So, if it's you can absolutely figure these things out on your own, but if you're what's unique for your organization, if you want a starting point, I really, really like Manfred's recommendations, and that's
he takes the ideas of domain-driven design and enforces them using NX as tooling, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So that book is free. I think if you check out Manfred's Twitter feed, you should be able to get that, and it's a really short read, and it's so beneficial. It's just super dense. I've actually read through it a couple of times already, just to be able to get things out of it. So shout out to Manfred. He's doing great work. That's a great Twitter follow if you're an architect.
Right. You're not saying that Manfred's dense. You're saying that the book that he wrote is dense.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for that correction.
And he'll be at NGBE with us next week too.
Right. Awesome.
Even more NGBE hype. Woo.
Giving a talk on Angular architecture and like that exact like monorepo structure stuff. So it's all coming together. Like
it's all connected.
Everything's lining up.
Yeah.
Awesome. It looks like we got about 5 minutes. Any other specific things?
There was another question by another viewer, but I'm not sure what he's referring to. So I asked for clarification, but I didn't get one. Maybe one of you knows what he might be touching on. Can you talk about an app shell versus app? Yeah, exactly.
And this was actually kind of the core of the big debate that Philip and I were having the other week was because sometimes like the app, there's an interface between the app and the like sometimes you actually want to wrap a component, and that's where it kind of gets crazy because you really want to keep it flat. So it's hard to keep it flat when one thing needs a wrapper.
Right. So I think you're talking about, let's see. So basically, something that's like an app shell would be an application that has basically includes the review and store applications inside of it in a way. I think that's what you're referring to. Let's see, how would you do that? Basically, I think you would set up an app shell application, and it would. I don't think it would directly depend on review and store in code, but you could set up your own implicit dependencies if you wanted to, and then you would have to take care of when you built those. You would have your CI system or your deploy process would have to take care of dropping in the output bundles in the appropriate location, so the app shell would know how to load them in correctly.
So ideally, the word shell would be, because from what I've seen, the way that I've seen it used is basically that you guys are using shell just for routing. So a shell should be lightweight and really clean and tidy and just for routing. Is that right?
Okay. I see what you're talking about now. Okay, so that's a different concept. But yeah, so if you want to have your app, generally we recommend having as little code inside of the actual app as possible, and then most of the code lives in libraries. So review itself, I can show you, whichever one of these is the Angular. Let's see, is that the Angular one? Yeah, this is the Angular one.
That's
so
it, yeah.
The store is very small. It just has the app module, and app component has a header on it, and that's it. And it looks like it includes one component, but this component itself is not declared inside of the app module, inside of the store app. It's imported from
from store feature.
Yeah, it's either store. Yeah, I think it's from here actually. Yeah, and then and then the routes inside of it are pulled in, and these are each inside of libraries. So the app module is very small, and then all the code is happening inside of the libraries that it uses, and that's generally what we recommend, because the when you tell NX to test everything that it needs to test. So say if you make a change here to review feature list, and here, let me actually do this. And this will probably be the last thing I'll be able to do. Yeah, done with that. Come on. Make a change to, if I can find my cursor, store feature list here. I'll just change here. And I'll do a NX affected dependency graph. Oh, nope. Looks like I changed too much stuff. Okay. All right. So when you make a change here to review feature list, it will make this red, and then anything that depends on it red. So review will be red, and review end to end will be red. So if you run a test everything that's been affected by this, it'll run the tests on the review feature list, on review, and review end to end. So if you have a lot of code up here in your app, then that code needs to be tested anytime anything it depends on changed. So if you can push code as far down as you can, then when I test feature list, I'll have to test review and review end to end. But if I've pushed code over here into future details, that code doesn't have to be tested, because we know that it's not depending on a review feature list itself. So that's the main reason that we encourage pushing code out of the app itself into libraries, because then you get the benefit of the tooling that NX provides, where you can say just do what was absolutely necessary and don't do anything more.
You could take that to an extreme and do that within an app even.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, it will take like a hefty jest or karma config, but it's an interesting idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the way you do that is you do NX affected, and then you give it a target, and say this could be lint or build or anything that's defined in your Angular JSON. I'll do test here, and it will. So in our case, we've changed things. Let me undo a change here. Oh, I've changed TS lint. That's why. TS lint makes everything be changed. So now, if I do affected dependency graph, then you'll see a better dependency graph here. There we go.
Oh yeah, that's cute.
So there you can see that the feature list was changed. So this is changed, and the end to ends needs to be updated, but nothing else needs to be changed. And if I run affected dash target equals test, it's going to list out, okay, store feature list and store were affected by it, and I'm going to run test on both of those. And so my test failed, but in your CI system, instead of running test on everything in your repository, you just run this command, and it will only run test on the things that it actually needs to.
Wow, powerful stuff
cool.
in there. Yeah, very powerful stuff.
I think that's the most powerful thing about NX. I think because it understands this dependency graph, it lets you do things like affected. I guess I should make sure to mention before we're done, there is another section in the Advanced NX Workspaces course on setting up your CI and CD pipeline, and that heavily uses the NX affected command, and there's a run many command which will say you already have your list of things you want to your projects that you want to run on, so you can just give it to them. So store feature list and store. So this will run the exact same thing that NX affected just ran. And And then then there's also NX print affected. And that will, I'm going to pipe this to less because it sends out a giant JSON file. Actually, let me do it with it, give it a target. So this gives you a JSON file that NX affected uses this JSON file, but it gives you this JSON file so you can kind of leverage this inside of your CI system to split up your tasks even more, split them across like multiple machines if you want to. So there's an array of tasks. So it's store feature list test and store test, and then down here it lists out your whole dependency graph even. If you need that for some reason. And this is dependency graph looks basically like the Angular JSON file with NX JSON merged into it with the tags there. So anyway, that's really cool. That's more to come in the future.
This is very cool. Isaac, I really am sad that we're at the top of the hour because I wish you could just,
Oh, I'm afraid Bonnie just cut out. I'm sure she was going to say that we could talk more about it, but let's see if she comes back within a second.
I'm sad too, Bonnie.
Yeah, we all are.
We're all sad.
We're all sad now.
But it's okay.
I think Bonnie's just returned. Bonnie has just returned.
If you want to hear more of my voice, you can go to nxplaybook.com.
I'm sorry, my internet's terrible. Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. If you guys want to spend more time with Isaac, because he has to get back to work, which is a bummer, then you can go and watch these courses.
Yeah, it's actually not a bummer. I like my work, but...
Yeah.
It's a bummer for us that you have to go.
It's just a bummer for us that you can't stay here all day and teach us free stuff, because we would. You just tell Victor and Jeff that you were hanging out with us all day.
Okay. I'll get a note from the doctor. I'll be fine.
Well, I really want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, Isaac, and thank you, Philip and Bjorn, for asking a bunch of amazing questions and covering for me because my internet's been kind of off. I really would like to say hello to everyone and encourage them to come back.
All right, so yeah, that's unfortunately it was kind of followable until the final part. All right, so yeah, there was a little part in there, Bonnie, that cut out. I think to summarize, we want to thank you, Isaac, for coming on the show, taking us through the new course, and we would invite you to always come back if you have additional stuff.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and that was great. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, y'all come back now. You hear?
I mean, I'm not texting. I can't do that, so see ya.
You got to practice it, Bjorn.
No, I don't just feel I deserve it.
All right. Thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you, Philip and Bjorn. And we will see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Right. See ya.
Bye.
See ya.